Aloha, everyone. Welcome to Java, and thanks for joining me. This is for Thursday, December 21st, 2023. It's the shortest day of the year in North America, so after this, you'll be getting more light every day. So, moving into the markets, yesterday, as the probabilities were correct, the markets did take a correction. So, the market risk indicator did come down a bit. We were talking about the relative strength of the dollar and the 10-year. They did rise a bit yesterday, as it kind of needed, and stocks took a hit. The equity markets did retrace, and it was indeed a red candle day. So with that was uh, a decent pullback. However, nothing major. We've got gold is in positive territory today over 2048. The volatility index already dropping again. So with this in the futures going green, it looks to be a continuation today towards our Santa Claus rally that we may have for tomorrow. So trading numbers is down, volume is down. Everybody's heading out for holidays for the United States markets. So the volatility can increase, could be larger moves since there's less people to kind of balance out that price action. So just keep that in mind. And then also we've got some companies that are still and individuals still doing tax loss harvesting. And so what that means is they have to cut by the end of the year the losers out of their portfolio. So even if they sell them at a loss, that's kind of their in cleanup mode, so to speak. So moving on with our calendar, some of the things that I'm watching. CarMax came out with positive results, which I'm actually a bit surprised about for this quarter being what happened with automobiles, loans, and earnings. So I think that this may be a problem for them pushed forward. But right now they're in positive territory and the stock is rising. Also going to be watching Paychex earnings. And this is because it has a different reflection on the job angle for the United States. So we're also watching GDP today, jobless claims, and then we're also getting the Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index. So with that, I'm also going to go over Friday. We're expecting core durable goods, PCE, and new home sales. And I know that a lot of traders have, so to speak, stepped out of the room already for the holiday on Monday. So what we're watching a little bit longer term is the equities markets are in a massive valuation trap. This is a problem, basically. What it's saying, as this says, bonds, equities, real estate, and the S&P are all priced in at roughly 18x forward. So that means that the economy would have to have roughly 12% growth next year in order to maintain these earnings. And I don't see 12% growth coming in next year. So we'll be watching that. That could happen at any time. We've also got planned layoff announcements. And yeah, I mistyped that. Planned layoff announcements up to 190% year over year. So more layoffs coming, more unemployment coming for this next year. And the bigger thing to watch is not just the job numbers, but there is actually an index of aggregate hours worked. Why do we watch this? Because a lot of the jobs numbers, if you have uh, two part-time jobs for every one job, of course, you could have the same numbers, same amount of work, double the numbers. So numbers in jobs could be skewed by this. So if we look at the aggregate hours worked, it's a little bit more of a realistic index. So moving into our news, we had yesterday, they were talking about Wall Street tumbling to a sharp lower close as abrupt sell-off snaps rally. So we had quite a few people that were wondering what happened. They just couldn't figure out what it was. And basically, as I said yesterday when we were talking about that it would be a red candle day, the reason is there were 9 consecutive green candle days, and that's without any kind of pullback at all. That's a high probability that it did need one. Basically, the levels were hit at a high resistance, and so the markets just kind of retraced from that. There was a lot of algorithmic selling, which are basically when managers of larger funds, they'll set stop losses and levels or recovery levels automatically. So basically robots trading, when they hit those levels, they sold off. So talking about 2024 moving forward, and this from another story from Alpha, Seeking Alpha. And they're talking about how it might bring corrective wave and the reasons why. They're talking about information technology, artificial intelligence, how it will have an effect on this. Uh, Goes into consumer discretionary and healthcare sectors that they may hit a bit of a recession. There was another article talking about Obamacare and how more people have had to enroll in state subsidized healthcare because they just can't afford insurance going forward. The consumer is being hit. So long term, we will see this coming in. So vehicles today. So really, this is auto manufacturers, but basically what it boils down to is there's another stories coming out about the airbags causing safety issues. So with that, Toyota began to halt all vehicle shipments, and that was when that started it. Now this morning, Toyota's recalling, Honda's recalling, and the Toyota shares are beginning to slump because of this. So we're going to see a bit more of a downside for this. And then also Tesla is having some issues with Norway. So their stock price may take a hit. We'll see what happens with those, but on watch. So moving on to oil. There's a lot going on in this sector, as you know. So oil is main driver in the economy as far as inflation, and not just energy, but how things are made and shipped. So we've got Brent near $80 as United States output hits record. So the behind the story, the United States seeing what was going on after Russia trying to sanction, but we can't do without their oil. So they kicked up their shale production, and we're also trying to get resources from alternate sources. So what we do politically, we'll try to increase friends that have the resource that we need. So with Venezuela, they began easing the gas and gold sanctions. Why? Because those are two things that United States needs, of course. So kind of bolstering our trade in that section. But if we look at also behind the scenes, all this talk about climate change, there is still restricting in the Middle East the production that they will be shipping. And so we had an auction in the United States on the Gulf of Mexico oil, the largest since 2015. So basically, they're allowing these oil leases in the Gulf so that they can pull more of this resource. So along the stories, kind of trade and currency wars that are going on. And this was just really not a smart move um, on their behalf. I mean, this was not well thought out, but at any rate, German prosecutor seeks to confiscate $800 million in Russian assets. So looking to model after what happened, what the United States did. However, US had the reserve currency and has more resources. So this prosecutor decides that he wants to try and get hold of these funds that were basically, he's saying they were used, basically sanctioned funds. And the problem with this is Germany is hurting with their manufacturing, and a big portion of this is energy cost. Well, where did they get most of their energy from? Actually, is Russia. And Russia, Moscow, promised tit for tat response to the European Union seizures of Russian assets. So I don't see that this is going to go well, but maybe they'll find a way around this as well. I just wanted to point that out. So going through lava updates, what do we do to keep the poor people down and reduce the numbers of middle class, which they seem to hate? So give them stimulus money, and then you tax them on it. So every time they pass out paychecks, it costs money to print those checks, to mail them out, to get them people and then account for them. So when you get that money, and then you have to pay taxes back on it. So this is an experiment they did once they get people poor, to keep them poor. Universal basic income. So they're talking about $750 a month. They did an experiment for 6 months and then talked about how this is a wonderful thing because they found out that they were less likely to remain unsheltered and having basic needs met. Well, of course, they bought food and some of these other things, but in the longer term, how this works out on the broad economy is not a positive thing. But just to show you, UBI, Universal Basic Income, it is coming. And they're going to use this, in my opinion, my belief, moving forward when they issue in this central bank digital currency. It will go out as universal basic income to rope them in. Social Security, those payments will be changed to UBI so that you'll be forced to use that if you're on Social Security. If you want it, you're going to have to use their CBDC. And then also EBT payments and the likes. So anything coming from the government will be in that form, and that's how they're going to force adoption. So I have one last thing. How American history gets sacrificed. They're losing this particular statue is in the Arlington National Memorial. So erasing basically American history and identity, allowing a lot of illegal migrants coming in, not requiring or even suggesting that they should pick up any form of American culture, and kind of erasing it. The same thing is happening in Europe. So with that, I just want to say that it is close to Christmas. I know a lot of you are taking off. We're going to miss you for the holidays if you do. And the one thing we were asked to do, the one thing above all else, is to not forget what this is all about, who this is all about, and then also to take care of one another. And Greg started Emanon and basically just do something nice, one nice thing, brighten the day of one other person. This community is wonderful, and I thank you all for being here. So with that, wish you all a wonderful day. Green trading day if you will be trading. And until I see you again, my friends, stay free.